Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
August 2025 was a very important month for the world. Many big things happened that showed how the world was changing. It was a month with serious meetings between leaders, but also a month with growing problems in many places. This is the story of that month. The events of August 2025 changed the world in important ways. The world watched as two of the most powerful leaders met. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, and the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, had a special meeting. They met in a city called Anchorage, in Alaska. Many people hoped they would find a way to end the war in Ukraine. They wanted peace. But the meeting was short. The two leaders talked, but they did not make a final agreement. A planned lunch was even canceled. After the meeting, they gave short speeches, but did not answer any questions from reporters. Even with no final deal, the meeting was a big event. It showed that the relationships between powerful countries were different now. It seemed to be a new way of doing politics. Some countries, especially in Europe, were worried. They felt this new way of talking did not include them. At the same time, there were other serious problems around the world. In the Middle East, the situation in Gaza became worse. Israel's government announced a plan for a new, big attack to capture Gaza City. This plan made many other countries angry. The United Nations held a special meeting to talk about it. Life for people in Gaza was very difficult. A group of doctors called Médecins Sans Frontières wrote a terrible report. They said that getting help to people was very dangerous. They said that aid was being used like a weapon. Many people, including children, were getting hurt or killed when they tried to get food and supplies. The world's economy also had big problems. Sometimes political decisions can hurt jobs and businesses. This happened between the United States and India. The U.S. government put new high taxes on things made in India. The reason was that India was buying a lot of oil from Russia. Because of these new taxes, it was very hard for Indian companies to sell their products to the U.S. Many factories in India had to close. In one area, nearly 100,000 workers who made jewelry lost their jobs. These workers now had no money to support their families. There were other challenges for the world, too. Leaders from many countries met to talk about the problem of plastic pollution, but they could not agree on a plan to stop it. It was also a very bad year for fires in Canada. Huge wildfires burned for many weeks and were very difficult to control. All these events in August 2025 were connected. The meeting in Alaska, the crisis in the Middle East, the economic problems, and the fires were all part of a bigger story. The world became a more difficult and less certain place. The events of this one month showed the new challenges the world had to face. 2. The big meeting. All over the world, people waited. They watched their televisions and looked at their phones. In the cold, far north of America, two of the world's most powerful men were going to meet. It was August 15, 2025. The location was Anchorage, Alaska. U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin were having a big meeting. For more than 3 years, a terrible war was happening in Ukraine. Many people hoped this meeting could bring peace. Others were afraid. They worried about what a deal between these two leaders could mean for the world. No one knew what to expect, but everyone was watching. The meeting was at a large American military base called Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. The choice of location was important. It was on American land, but it was far from Washington, D.C. It was closer to Russia. It felt like a neutral place for a difficult talk. When the leaders arrived, it was a big show. There was a long, L-shaped red carpet on the ground for them to walk on. But behind the carpet, there was a show of American military power. The U.S. Air Force put some of its most advanced planes on display. There were F-22 Raptor fighter jets. There were also B-2 bomber planes. These planes are some of the most powerful in the world. The message was clear. The United States was meeting for peace, but it was also showing its strength. Before they started to talk, both leaders already had clear goals. President Trump told the world he wanted to end the war in Ukraine quickly. This was one of his promises. He said that if Russia did not agree to a peace deal, he would put more sanctions on the country. Sanctions are punishments that make it hard for a country to do business. This was his way of putting pressure on Putin. On the other side, Russia was ready to talk, but they also had a clear condition. A person from the Kremlin, Russia's government, said that the war could end. But for that to happen, Russia must get control of the eastern part of Ukraine. Putin also prepared for the meeting. He had a meeting with his own team the day before. He also had a phone call with the leader of North Korea a few days earlier. The world knew that both men wanted something, but their goals were very different. Inside the building, the plan for the meeting changed. At first, it was going to be a private, one-on-one talk between just Trump and Putin. This is how Trump often liked to do business. But the meeting became bigger. It changed to a 3-on-3 format. This meant more people were in the room. For the American side, President Trump was there with his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and a special helper, Steve Witkoff. For the Russian side, President Putin was with his Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, and a top foreign policy helper, Yuri Ushakov. With these important people in the room, the talks began. But they did not last long. Everyone expected the meeting to take many hours, but it was over in less than 3 hours. There was a lunch planned for after the talks. The lunch was canceled. This was a sign that the meeting was not easy or friendly. Something was wrong. After the short meeting, the two leaders came out to speak to journalists. The news conference was as short as the meeting. President Trump and President Putin stood in front of the cameras. They both read short, prepared statements. They did not look very happy. Then they left. They did not take any questions from the press. The journalists shouted questions, but the leaders walked away. The most important result of the meeting was that there was no result. No ceasefire was announced. No agreement was made. The war in Ukraine would continue. For the people hoping for peace, it was a very sad day. The big meeting had failed to stop the fighting. But was the meeting really a failure? It depended on who you asked. Later, President Trump said the meeting was a huge success. He called it a 10 out of 10. For him, the meeting itself was the success. It showed his way of doing things, talking directly with world leaders, one-on-one. He believed this was the best way to solve problems, even if they did not make a deal that day. For President Putin, it was also a kind of victory. For years, many Western countries had isolated Russia because of the war. This meeting put Putin back on the world stage. He was talking with the American president. A Russian expert called it a PR coup for Putin. It made him look important and powerful again. So, the meeting was not really about finding peace for Ukraine. It was more about symbols. It was a show of power and a new style of politics. The meeting in Alaska had a big effect on America's friends and partners, especially in Europe. European leaders were very worried. They were afraid that President Trump might make a deal with Russia without talking to them first. They worried that such a deal could be bad for European security. One expert said the meeting could cause the most serious breach in transatlantic relations since 1945. This means it could break the friendship between America and Europe that had lasted for over 80 years. These fears grew stronger after the meeting. President Trump later talked about an idea for peace. The idea was that Ukraine could give some of its land to Russia to end the war. This idea was a red line for Ukraine and for its European partners. They could not accept it. The big meeting in Alaska did not solve any problems. It created new ones and left the world in a more uncertain place. 3. A world on edge. While leaders from the United States and Russia were meeting, a very serious problem in the Middle East was getting worse. The situation in Gaza was becoming more dangerous every day. The world's attention was divided, but the crisis there was growing into a disaster. The leader of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, told the world about a new military plan. He said the Israeli army was going to start a big ground attack. The target was Gaza City. He said his goal was to get operational control of the city. This means the army would control everything that happened there. This plan was not only about fighting, it was also about moving a very large number of people. The plan said that up to 1 million civilians would have to leave their homes in Gaza City. They would be moved to new places called humanitarian zones in the south of Gaza. Netanyahu said that after his army defeated Hamas, he wanted Arab forces from other countries to take control of Gaza. Some people believed this plan was also for political reasons. They thought Netanyahu wanted to make his right-wing government partners happy. Many countries and international groups were very worried about this plan. Experts on international law said there was a big problem. World rules, or laws, say that if a country takes control of a place, it must take care of the people there. This means giving them food, water, and medicine. It is a legal duty. But it looked like Israel was not willing or able to do this. Some critics said the real plan was simple. Israel wanted to take the most possible land with the minimum possible number of civilians. They said Israel was trying to avoid its responsibilities as an occupying power. The situation became even more serious on August 6th. A group of doctors called Médecins Sans Frontières, or MSF, released a terrible report. MSF gives medical help in places with wars or disasters. Their report was about how aid was given to people in Gaza. The report said that aid was being used as a weapon against the people it was supposed to help. It talked about a food program called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF. MSF called this program a laboratory of cruelty. They said it was a militarized distribution mechanism. This means it was controlled like a military operation, not like a normal aid program. The MSF report gave shocking numbers from a short period of time. Between June 7th and June 24th, MSF doctors worked in clinics near GHF food sites. In those few weeks, they treated 1,380 people who were hurt. 28 of these people died from their injuries. 174 people came to the clinics with gunshot wounds. The report said something even more worrying. 71 of the people with gunshot wounds were children. 25 of those children were under the age of 15. The doctors at MSF saw where the bullets hit people. Many people were shot in the head, neck, and chest. MSF said this showed that people were not shot by accident. They were targeted on purpose. The report said Israeli forces and private security workers from the United States were shooting at civilians. These civilians were often just trying to get food for their families at the GHF sites. Because of this terrible violence, MSF and more than 100 other aid groups asked the world to do something. They wanted the GHF program to stop immediately. They asked governments and donors everywhere to stop giving money or any kind of support to the GHF. They called the program a deadly tool of control. The report explained that the GHF and other difficult rules were making it very hard for real aid groups to work. These groups, like MSF, are impartial. This means they help everyone no matter what side they are on. But the report said Israel was trying to block this impartial aid. It seemed they wanted to replace trusted aid groups with systems that helped their own political and military goals. The MSF report showed one part of a much bigger crisis. Other reports showed how bad the situation was for everyone in Gaza. 94% of all hospitals in Gaza were damaged or destroyed. It was almost impossible for sick or injured people to get medical care. Food was also a huge problem. About 1.2 million people were facing emergency levels of hunger. They did not have enough food to eat. People's homes were gone too. An amazing 92% of all houses in Gaza were damaged or destroyed. Because of this, most people had to leave their homes. About 1.9 million people, or 90% of the population, were displaced. They had nowhere safe to live. Helping people in Gaza was one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. The aid workers who tried to bring food, water, and medicine were often attacked. Since the conflict became much worse in late 2023, 517 aid workers had been killed. It was a shocking number, and almost all of them were Palestinian. 509 of the dead aid workers were from Palestine. This showed that local people who were trying to help their own communities were in constant danger. This terrible situation made many governments around the world very angry. The news stories and the powerful reports changed how some countries thought about the long conflict. On August 11th, 2 countries made a big announcement that showed this change. Australia and New Zealand said they would officially recognize Palestine as a state. This means they would see Palestine as its own independent country. They planned to make this official at a big meeting at the United Nations in September. This was a very important change in policy. For a long time, these countries, and many others in the West, did not want to do this. But the growing crisis was changing minds. Other important Western countries, like the United Kingdom, France, and Canada, had also said they were thinking about recognizing Palestine. It was a clear sign that international patience was running out. More and more countries felt that the situation had to change to find a lasting peace. The anger was growing around the globe. But in the Middle East, the crisis was only getting deeper and more dangerous. Israel's plan for a new attack on Gaza City meant more violence was coming. The people of Gaza were trapped with no safe place to go and little hope for help. Aid was not reaching them safely. A world on edge was watching and worrying about what would happen next in a conflict that was hurting so many innocent people. The Money War. August 2025 showed the world a clear lesson. When powerful countries have problems with each other, it can hurt the economy and normal people's lives. Decisions made in government offices can change everything for workers in factories far away. This is the story of a money war that started with politics but ended with people losing their jobs. The biggest economic fight of the month was between the United States and India. The U.S. government, led by President Donald Trump, decided to put new, higher taxes on things that came from India. These special taxes are called tariffs. In April, the tariff was 25%, but in August, President Trump doubled it to 50%. Suddenly, it was much more expensive for American companies to buy goods made in India. The reason for this money war was political. The United States was unhappy that India continued to buy large amounts of oil from Russia. The U.S. and its friends in Europe did not want countries to trade with Russia because of the war in Ukraine. They wanted to hurt Russia's economy. But India's government said it needed to buy Russian oil. They explained that this oil was important to keep energy costs low for the Indian people. India did not want to stop this trade. This disagreement had a terrible effect in India. The results were fast and serious, especially for industries that sold a lot of products to the U.S. The gems and jewelry business was hit the hardest. In one area of India, the Saurashtra region of Gujarat, there is a large diamond industry. Many people there work in small factories, cutting and polishing diamonds. When the new 50% tax started, American companies stopped their orders. They could not afford to buy Indian diamonds with such a high tax. Because of this, nearly 100,000 workers in the diamond industry lost their jobs. These workers did not earn a lot of money, usually between 15,000 and 20,000 rupees a month. For them, losing their job was a disaster. One day they had work, and the next day the factories were quiet. The diamonds they worked on were for people in America, a country most of them had never seen. But a political decision in Washington, D.C. meant they could no longer feed their families. The money war was very real for them. The problem was bigger than just one industry. Experts believed the new tariffs could cost India between $30 and $35 billion in sales to other countries. This was enough to slow down the growth of the entire Indian economy. The situation was a big shock for India. The government and business leaders knew they had to do something. They needed to talk with the U.S. and try to find a solution. They also knew that India needed to find new countries to sell its products to. It was too dangerous to sell so much to only one country. Nations like Vietnam and Bangladesh did not have the same high tax, so American companies started to buy from them instead. India had to find new partners in places like Africa and West Asia. While India faced these serious problems, the economy in other parts of the world looked strong. In the United States, the stock market had a record month. All the major stock indexes reached their highest prices ever. Investors were happy because information showed that prices for everyday things were not rising too quickly. They believed it would soon be cheaper to borrow money, which is good for business. Companies that worked with artificial intelligence, or AI, were doing especially well. Their stocks were worth more and more money. Even world experts were positive about the future. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, said it expected the global economy to grow in 2025 and 2026. This was good news for everyone. But the IMF also gave a warning. It said that this growth could be in danger. The biggest risk was problems between countries, like the trade tensions and high tariffs. The money war between the U.S. and India was a perfect example of this danger. It showed that even when the global economy is strong, political fights can create new problems very quickly, hurting businesses and ordinary people around the world. 5. A planet in trouble. In August 2025, the Earth showed more signs of trouble. While politicians and leaders met in different parts of the world, big environmental problems were getting worse. From the oceans full of plastic to the forests burning in North America, it was clear that the planet needed help. But finding solutions that everyone could agree on was not easy. This month showed the world's big environmental challenges and the difficult road to fixing them. World leaders and experts from 184 countries met in Geneva, Switzerland. They had a very important job. They needed to create a global treaty to stop plastic pollution. A treaty is a rule that all countries agree to follow. The plan was to finally agree on the rules in this meeting. For years, scientists have warned about plastic. It is in our oceans, in our rivers, and even in our food. This meeting was a chance to do something big about it. But after many days of talks, the meeting ended on August 15th with no agreement. This was a big disappointment for many people. It was the last meeting they had planned. The countries could not agree on the best way to solve the problem. Some countries, and many scientists, said the world needs to make less plastic. They wanted the treaty to have rules to limit plastic production. But other countries, especially those that make a lot of oil and plastic, disagreed. They only wanted to talk about recycling and managing plastic waste after it is made. Experts say that recycling is not enough. The world makes too much plastic, and we cannot recycle all of it. A famous health report said that plastic is a grave, growing danger to people's health. It also said the world cannot recycle its way out of the plastic pollution crisis. The leaders in Geneva did not give up completely. They said they would remain at the table and continue to work on a treaty. The head of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, said he was happy that they wanted to keep trying. But for now, there are no new global rules. Every day, more plastic goes into the environment, making the problem bigger. At the same time, a different environmental disaster was happening in Canada. The country had its worst wildfire season in 30 years. Huge areas of forest were on fire, and the country was on track for its second worst fire season ever recorded. The provinces of Manitoba and Saskatchewan were hit the hardest. For weeks, giant fires burned out of control. The smoke from the fires was a major problem. It covered large parts of North America, making the air dangerous to breathe. The sky in many cities turned orange and hazy, even thousands of kilometers away from the fires. The fires were not just a problem for the environment. They were a direct danger to people. Tens of thousands of people had to leave their homes. In one case, the entire city of Flin Flon in Manitoba was evacuated. Families had to quickly pack their things and find a safe place to go. The Canadian government sent the army to help fight the fires and help people. Help also came from other countries. The American Red Cross sent more than 115 volunteers. They helped to run shelters for the thousands of people who lost their homes. This year, there was also a very scary problem called zombie fires. These are fires that do not go out in the winter. They burn slowly under the snow and ice. When spring comes and the snow melts, they come back to life and start burning again. Some of these zombie fires had survived for over 2 years since the big fires of 2023. This was something new and showed how much the climate was changing. The ground is warmer and drier, so the fires never really die. It is a powerful and dangerous sign of a warming planet. Not all the news was bad. In Lusaka, the capital of Zambia, there was a meeting that offered some hope. It was called the NAP Expo 2025. People from 80 different countries came together. They were not there to talk about the problems, but to talk about solutions. Their meeting was about adaptation. Adaptation means preparing for the effects of climate change that are already happening. The main message from the meeting was that the world needs to invest more money in adaptation. Poorer countries especially need help to protect their people from disasters like floods, droughts, and big storms. They talked about how to build stronger houses, save water, and plant crops that can survive in hotter, drier weather. The meeting was full of positive energy. People shared new ideas and new technology. They launched new guides to help every country make a good plan. One of the most exciting topics was how to use artificial intelligence, or AI, and big data. This new technology can help scientists predict where a flood might happen or when a drought is coming. With this information, governments can warn people and prepare for the disaster. This can save many lives. While the big plastic treaty meeting failed, this smaller meeting in Africa was a success. It showed that people around the world are not waiting. They are working hard to find real solutions to protect their communities from a changing climate. It was a small but important sign of hope in a difficult month. 6. New discoveries. August 2025 was a difficult month in many ways. There were problems in politics and with the world's money. But it was not all bad news. In the world of science, there was a lot of good news. Scientists and researchers made some amazing discoveries. These new ideas gave people hope for a better future. From medicine to space, there were exciting breakthroughs. This chapter looks at the good news that came from laboratories and telescopes around the world. One of the most exciting discoveries was in medicine. Scientists in Sweden made a new type of gel. They called it skin in a syringe. This special gel can help heal skin very well. It is full of living cells. When doctors put the gel on a bad cut or a burn, the cells help the skin to grow back perfectly. This means there are no scars. A scar is the mark left on your skin after a cut heals. For people with serious burns, this is wonderful news. They often have large scars that can be painful and make it hard to move. This new gel could change their lives. Doctors can put the gel directly on the wound. They can also use a 3D printer to make new pieces of skin with the gel. It is a big step forward in helping people heal. Scientists also learned more about the human brain. For a long time, people thought that the brain only gets weaker as we get older. But new research showed this is not always true. Some parts of the brain can actually get stronger. For example, the parts of our brain that process touch can improve with age. This was a surprise for many scientists. There was more good news about the brain. Researchers found a possible new way to help people who have problems with their memory. In tests with mice, they used a new tool to make the animal's memory better. It worked by making the power stations inside brain cells stronger. Other scientists found a new secret about how our brains control our weight. They found a shortcut in the brain that could be used for new weight loss treatments. These new treatments might not have the bad side effects that some current medicines have. These discoveries open the door for new ways to keep our brains healthy and strong for our whole lives. There was also big news from space. Astronomers used the famous Hubble Space Telescope to look deep into the universe. The telescope is like a giant camera in space. It took a picture of a galaxy that is very difficult to see. This galaxy, called NGC 45, is a spiral galaxy, like our own Milky Way, but it is almost invisible. Finding it helps scientists understand how galaxies are formed. The Hubble telescope found something else amazing. It saw a giant Einstein ring. An Einstein ring is a special circle of light that comes from a very distant galaxy. This light is bent by the gravity of something huge in front of it. In this case, the ring showed astronomers that there was one of the biggest black holes in the universe hiding there. A black hole is a place in space where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can get out. Finding this giant black hole helps us learn more about the biggest and most mysterious objects in our universe. Finally, there was important progress in the search for clean energy. Clean energy is power that does not pollute the earth. One of the best ideas for future clean energy is nuclear fusion. Fusion is the same process that powers the sun. It can create huge amounts of energy from very little fuel, and it does not make dangerous waste. But making fusion energy on Earth is very difficult. It needs very high temperatures, hotter than the sun. The machines that do this, called fusion reactors, have to be very strong to hold the super-hot material, which is called plasma. In August, scientists announced a new tool that can help. They created a very fast artificial intelligence, or AI, program. The program is called HeatML. This AI can look inside a fusion reactor and find the safe zones. These are places where the plasma is not too hot. This helps to protect the walls of the reactor. It means the reactors can run for longer and be safer. This smart AI is a big help for scientists who are working to give the world clean and safe energy for the future. 7. People and culture. In August 2025, while leaders and governments talked about big world problems, normal people continued with their lives. It was a month with protests, new movies, and big sports moments. Some of these moments were happy and exciting, but some were very sad. This chapter looks at the culture of the month and the lives of people around the world. In the United States, many people were not happy with the president, Donald Trump. All summer, large groups of people came together in cities to protest. They held signs and marched in the streets. They wanted to show that they did not agree with his work as president. Big groups like the Indivisible movement and Black Voters Matter helped to plan these protests. They wanted to make their voices heard by the government and the world. At the same time, another political group called the Democratic Socialists of America had a big meeting. More and more people were joining this group because they wanted new ideas. They talked about their plan to help workers and to build a new political party. They did not want to work with the Democratic Party. They said that both old parties were not helping normal people. They wanted something new for the country. While people in the U.S. were protesting, there were serious problems with human rights in other parts of the world. Every year, the U.S. government writes a report about human rights in every country. But this year, a group called Human Rights Watch said the report was not fair. They said the U.S. government was not honest. The report was nice to countries that were friends with the U.S., but it was not nice to other countries. For example, the report said the United Kingdom had problems with human rights, which was a surprise to many people. In other places, things were worse. In Peru, the government made a new law. This law said that police and soldiers could not go to jail for bad things they did in the past. This made many people angry. They said it was not justice. The United Nations also wrote a report about Sri Lanka. The report said that the police and army in Sri Lanka hurt people. In Africa, a court in the country of Chad sent an important political leader to jail for 20 years. And in the Middle East, in Qatar, a leader of the Baha'i religion was sent to jail for 5 years. Many people said these things were not right and showed big problems with human rights around the world. Even with many serious problems in the world, people still found time for fun with movies and music. August was the end of the summer movie season, so many big films were in cinemas. Cinemas had many new films for people to watch. For families, there was a new cartoon movie called The Bad Guys 2, which was a fun story about animal criminals. Disney also made a new family movie called Freakier Friday. For people who like action, the movie Nobody 2 was in cinemas with lots of fighting and excitement. And for people who like to be scared, there were new horror films like Weapons and Together. At the end of the month, a new movie called The Roses came out. It was a dark comedy about a husband and wife. It had two very famous actors, Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch. It was also a month for film festivals. These are special events where new movies are shown. The Venice International Film Festival in Italy is very famous. This year, it gave special awards to director Werner Herzog and actress Kim Novak. They got the awards for their long and important work in movies. At another festival in Zurich, Switzerland, the actor Colin Farrell received a big award. He was there to show his new movie, Ballad of a Small Player. People also watched new movies at home on streaming services. A new thriller movie called Eeny Meeny was popular. There was also a new documentary about the actor Jussie Smollett. It talked about the story of his police case. In music, there were new albums to listen to. The rapper Offset released his third album, called Kiari. He said the album was about his life and who he is. Also, the famous rock band Deftones released a new album. It was called Private Music. Many people who liked the band's old music were happy to hear their new songs. August had many exciting and also very sad moments in sports. In the world of chess, two young women with Indian heritage did amazing things. In the United Kingdom, a 10-year-old girl named Bodhana Sivanandan played in a big competition. She became the youngest female player ever to win a game against a grandmaster. Grandmasters are the best players in the world and usually have many years of experience. Many people were very surprised that a young girl could play so well. They said her style of playing was like the world champion Magnus Carlsen. Another young player, 19-year-old Divya Deshmukh from India, also made history. She won the Women's World Cup. It was a very important victory. She played with calm and was very smart in her final game against another great player. Winning the cup also made her a grandmaster automatically. This is very rare in chess and showed her amazing talent. But there was also very sad news in the world of sports. In Japan, two boxers died after a boxing event in Tokyo. The two men, Hiromasa Urakawa and Shigetoshi Kotari, both fought on the same night. After their fights, they were taken to the hospital because of injuries to their brains. A few days later, both of them died. It was a terrible tragedy for boxing. After this happened, the Japan Boxing Commission made a new rule. They made some big fights shorter, from 12 rounds to 10 rounds. They hoped this would make the sport safer for the boxers. There were other big moments in sports too. In athletics, there was a big 100-meter race. Noah Lyles from the USA and Keyshawn Thompson from Jamaica ran against each other. Thompson won the race this time. In tennis, there was a strange moment that many people talked about. A British player, Emma Raducanu, was playing an important match. She stopped the game to complain about a baby crying in the crowd. The umpire asked her, "Do you want me to kick the child out of the stadium?" Some people in the crowd shouted yes. The moment went viral on the internet. Finally, in cricket, the Indian captain Shubman Gill won the Player of the Month award for July. He played very well in his games against England. Life in August showed that even in difficult times, culture and sport were still very important to people. They gave people things to celebrate, things to talk about, and things to hope for. 8. The month's meaning. August 2025 was a month that showed the world was changing fast. It was a time of big meetings between powerful leaders, but also a time of serious problems for many people around the globe. When we look back at the events of this month, we can see a new picture of the world. It is a world with new challenges, new dangers, and new rules. The important events of August were not separate things. They were all connected, and they tell one big story about our world today. The biggest story was about the changing friendships between countries. The meeting in Alaska between the American President, Donald Trump, and the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, was a key moment. The meeting was a big show, with a red carpet and military planes like F-22 Raptors on display. They talked for less than 3 hours about the war in Ukraine, but they did not make a peace deal. Nothing was signed. But the meeting was still very important for its symbolism. It showed a new way of doing politics. President Trump likes to meet with other leaders one-on-one. This is different from working with big groups of countries like the old allies in Europe. For Russia, the meeting was a big success. One person called it a PR coup for President Putin because it made him look important on the world stage again after many years of isolation. But for America's friends in Europe, the meeting was a great worry. They felt that their long friendship with the U.S. was not as strong as before. The world's old power structures are changing. Countries are looking for new partners, and the future is difficult to predict. This month also showed how money can be used as a weapon in politics. The United States put new, higher taxes on things coming from India. The reason was simple. India was still buying a lot of oil from Russia. The U.S. used these taxes, called tariffs, to punish India and pressure it to stop. These tariffs had a terrible effect in India, especially in the gems and jewelry business. Many companies could not sell their products to the U.S. anymore. In one region, nearly 100,000 workers in the diamond industry lost their jobs. These were people who earned a small salary and now had no money to support their families. This shows how a political decision in one country can cause serious problems for ordinary people in another country. Help for people in need, called humanitarian aid, was also used as a weapon. In Gaza, the situation for people was terrible. A very important report from the group Doctors Without Borders came out. It described a food program that it called a laboratory of cruelty. It said the program was a dangerous, militarized system, not a way to help people. Between early June and late June, their clinics treated over 1,300 people who were hurt near these food sites. Sadly, 28 people died. Many victims, including 71 children, had gunshot wounds. The report said this was not real help. It was a tool to control the people. This news made countries around the world very angry. It was one reason why countries like Australia and New Zealand decided they would officially recognize Palestine as a country. August did not solve the world's biggest problems. In fact, many problems got worse. The meeting in Alaska did not bring peace to Ukraine. The plans for a new attack in Gaza meant the conflict in the Middle East would continue to hurt civilians. And the planet's health is still a huge worry. The wildfires in Canada were some of the worst in history. They burned huge areas of forest. A special problem was the zombie fires, fires that never really go out. They can burn under the snow all winter and start again in the spring. At the same time, world leaders met to create a treaty to stop plastic pollution, but they could not agree. The meeting ended with no new rules. It is very difficult for all the countries in the world to work together on these big challenges. So, what does August 2025 mean for the future? The month was a clear sign that the world is in a period of great change. Old friendships are being tested, and new competitions between powerful countries are starting. Money and even humanitarian aid are now tools in these political fights. The big problems of war, conflict, and climate change are still with us, and they are not getting easier to solve. The events of August created more questions than answers. The final months of the year will likely be a time of more uncertainty. We may see more pressure on Ukraine, and India may try to find new countries to trade with. The world is trying to find its way in this new, more complicated time. Which event from this month do you think was the most important for the future? Let us know in the comments.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.